So, hey guys, hope you had a pleasant conferencing experience so far. Yeah, my name is Maida, and I'm a senior product designer at Wise these days. And what I do at Wise is I design tools, not hammers or screwdrivers and stuff, but actual digital products for internal teams. And the keywords that describe my work best are probably those three. KYC, meaning know your customer. FinCrime and AML stand for financial crimes and anti-money laundering. So the tools I build are there to help Wisers to be more efficient, be more productive, and happy in whatever they do on a daily basis. And by the end of the day, whatever I do on a daily basis helps, hopefully, to be our customers also to be happy. So, before we jump to the actual topic, let me just remind you in the mandatory part, like what Wise is, what are we about? As we all know, Wise is a an Estonian-born fintech/unicorn, and our mission is money without borders. Instant, convenient, transparent, and eventually for free. We have today more than 4,300 of those Wisers who help our 15 million customers to move more than 10 billion euros a month. And at the same time, save them around 1 billion euros a year. How amazing is that? But we have a problem which is big, which is everywhere, and we see it every day. I personally see it everywhere. I have experienced it myself and also from my previous jobs. Large businesses, actually both large businesses as well as already well-established startups, still fail to treat their internal tooling with the same respect as they would treat their customer-facing products. And that is not okay. It doesn't matter if you build a website or a whatever, something for yourself, something for your friend, if you build a social media app for teenagers or a gardening web platform for gardeners or maybe a tool for your internal teams. Everything deserves the same attention, the same amount of love as your customer-facing products because everything is customer-facing. And that is something that needs to be understood. And only if you do that, you will be successful in both building products for your customers and building products for your colleagues. But why do we still turn our attention to this only if it starts to affect your customer's experience negatively? We don't even turn our attention to tooling when it somewhat affects the customer's experience positively. So what's up with that? So I chose this topic for today because I know that the tooling space is kind of considered a really expensive, a complex, a technical space, so a technical domain to work in. Also, it's considered oftentimes a really boring domain to work in. But I will try to prove the exact opposite today, that, as the host also said, designing tools for your internal teams can also be fun, exciting, and oftentimes even more rewarding than designing products for your customers. But again, like what is an internal tool? Before we can even start talking about how to build them and why, we need to understand what is an internal tool. An internal tool could be anything really. It could be as small as a plugin or an integration or an automation. So it's something running in the background, teeny tiny, doing something for you, making your process better, making something for you. You don't even need to pay attention to it, but it's there. And it's good that it's there, right? It could be a platform. For example, the content management system for your homepage. Like it's something that you use internally to do and manipulate something that is external, your website, right? For us designers and for you guys as well and engineers, it could be a design system or a design library that you work on a daily basis with. So it's really anything that is tailored to your business needs, ideally built by yourself. But why should you care about it? Like, why should you build your own tools? Because you shouldn't build tools because you want to build tools. You must have a really good reason. I'm going to give you a couple of reasons, like what I think are some of the really, really good reasons why you should consider building your tools yourself. So imagine yourself in a situation where you have a problem, you want to solve it, but there is no tool or no solution for you available on the market which has all the required features and is also at the same time cheap enough, so you would choose it. Reason number two, and I'm always getting really emotional when I talk about this part, because it leads to something I call learned helplessness. It's another big topic which we could discuss for hours, but not going to do it today. By using external tools, it's really, really, really easy to end up in a situation where bad design becomes your next, your new standard or your new norm. Why is that? So what I mean by poor design or bad design is when us, designers, we are the bad guys, rigidly and blindly follow all the rules, all the guidelines, all the patterns, all the principles. Oh my God, best practices. And then we go and do something, right? And then up to a point where our users don't even need to use their brains anymore to use the tool. How crazy is that, right? So learned helplessness, Google it, it's a thing. I'm not going to go further more into this. Reason number three, every well-designed and purposefully built tool has the potential to become your next big thing. Think about it, like most of the tools that you use today already, they kind of started in the same place. Someone wanted to solve a problem for themselves, and then, they saw a shared pain, and then, it grew into whatever tool you are using on a day. It probably started somewhere there. So again, a really good reason why you should consider building your own tools. And finally, I think one of the strongest or one of the most important reasons, in my opinion, is that the tools you use internally or build for your internal teams have a direct effect on your customers' experience, their relationship with your products, your services, and ultimately they have an effect on your company, how they, the customer perceives your company. So again, think about it. Everything is customer facing. So, but why are external tools? So I'm just going to quick disclaimer. Every time I say internal tool or internally facing software, I literally mean the stuff that you use in-house and build for yourself for your own purposes. And external is everything else that you pay a license fee for or a subscription fee for. So it's all those other things. So why are those other things still ruling the market? Again, some of the reasons you can already think about, like multiple probably, but in my opinion, you don't. I mean, it's just there waiting for you, right? You know what you need, not what you want, but what you need. It's probably an app for that, right? It might not solve all the problems for you, but it's there for you. Go and start using it already tomorrow. That's reason number two. There's no time you need to waste on starting to use it. Customer support. These days, again, it's included in the package. Who doesn't like, a well-packaged, nicely, perfectly marketed product? I do. But those same external tools don't come with only positive sides. They do have their negative sides as well. One of my favorites, security. Any connection you create between your thing and the other thing is a potential vulnerability. Like any time like data moves here and there, or even if you create your account with that product or service with your company email, that is a potential vulnerability. It might not be a technical one, but it's a social one, right? So anytime you need to share, and because you are not in control of the security, the more you need to be concerned, even though there's, those light green certificate indicators in the browser and whatever. Like, don't trust them. Security is something that you need to be worried about all the time. You're stuck with what you just bought. It's actually a bucket full of things. Personalization. My colors, my theme, my font size, my stuff, whatever. Packaged products usually come with, predefined set of whatever you can do. Like they are branded already, it's someone else's face and look and feel. Customizability, scalability, again, something that over the course of time will cost you something if you want to add a feature or fix a feature or improve something. So because you are not in control, there's always someone else who needs to take care of the stuff that you want. So you really are stuck with what you just bought. And if you end up in a situation where you buy or get a tool that doesn't solve all your problems, by the end of the day, you will end up with 10 tools. And then over the course of time, again, it will be as expensive as building your own products. So, but internal tools don't come with only, those positive things either. I just mentioned one of the best reasons why not to build, and I really suggest young companies and early stage startups not to build your own tools because you will go bankruptcy. But tooling is expensive, and why? I'm going to give you an example. An engineer, let's say he's a lucky one, earns 100,000 euros a year. Your team decides to build a tool. You take this one engineer, put it on the job, he does it in 6 months, that's 50K expenses plus taxes, right? Add a couple of months on top of it for bug fixing and maintenance, and your final bill will be 80K plus taxes in 6 months. So I can't imagine, there probably are some, but I can't imagine a tool which will cost you 80,000 in 6 months. Now imagine yourself in a situation where you build a tool and you need to put 2 or 3 engineers on the job, plus a PM, of course, a designer always. I'm looking at you PMs. So it is really an expensive domain to work in. So only build your own tools when you really are sure that you have the resources available. You wait for it, and then in 6 months and 8 months, it's still not there. You're still testing, you're still, fixing bugs, and then once you release it, everyone already has gotten used to the other tool with the bad design, and then it's much more difficult to sell your idea, right? Or sell your product to them, even internally. You can force them, I guess. Shouldn't really, but it's a possibility. For usability, again, I'm looking at you PMs, please do not design, please. We are here to help you. So it's like, it's okay, I love you guys, but you know what I mean, you know what I'm saying, right? So, customer support, of course. There's never time for that, right? I don't have time for that. I can't imagine myself ever having time for that. I could create a wiki, documentation. I don't have time for that either. So a lot of negative sides on building your own tools. We are hiring. If you want to do some stuff, then documentation is the thing. But enough with the dark side of things. This is where the awesomeness now begins. Hypnotic, right? Internal tools have some major benefits over all the other things. One of them, and again, one of my favorites, because again, of the specificity of the domain where I work in, is security. So when you are in control of security, you can pretty much dismiss all those other things which you see as vulnerability when you get an external tool. Of course, like integrations can still happen, but again, you are the one who dictates the rules, so others have to align with you, not you aligning with them. So security is much less of a concern with tools that you build internally, especially if it's a tool that only is being used in-house. But never forget about the human factor, right? Like the data can still leak if someone shares by accident some information with someone who is actually not allowed to see that information. Or, I mean, there's like usually policies in place for that, but still, I mean, you grab a screenshot from a tool where you have like some information and you want to share it with one of your colleagues. That's a potential vulnerability as well if that person does not have the rights to see those data points in your screenshot. So always consider the human factor. Again, you remember the other bucket full of things, which was kind of a negative thing for external tools, is a massive positive thing about aspect of internal tooling, personalization. It's your thing, you decide how you build it, you design how you design it, you decide how you design it. So you can really do anything you want with how it looks, how it feels, what's the feature set, you can improve it, you can scale it, you can even up to where you really tailor the content to your users' needs as well. Because I can imagine, of course, like most likely in a bigger company, you have this kind of opportunity to tailor content for different teams. But also in smaller businesses, there are probably roles that would require this, that, or that. So you can even tailor the content based on roles and based on the context, which in our case is a huge thing, right? And yeah, really, I mean, every internally facing piece of software that you build yourself, you can 100% tailor to your users' needs and to your business needs. So again, it's like a huge opportunity, not only a benefit of internal tools, but opportunity for you as a designer or engineer or anyone who is really in product to do something amazing. And talking about amazing, like this is where the sexiness begins now. This is where the sexiness begins. It's your world, it's your tools, your rules. So countless times I've been able to bend the rules of UX. I've been able to create my own rules, my own patterns, my own principles, and really be the trendsetter in that space. Because what often happens in the customer-facing product world is that, again, you just follow those things. You're a trend follower, but we designers, we actually should be the exact opposite, like trendsetters. We should be the ones who create innovation. And the tooling space is something that you can use to grow as a designer. You can become a better designer by the end of the day by doing all those things, because there's huge opportunity in there. Think about it. I mean, again, there's a potential, there's like a chance that your thing at some point gets commercialized and becomes a customer-facing product itself, right? Money. I'm going to show you a couple of actual designs from what we've done at Wise. So let's call it the tool. It was something that I built. It was the first tool that I built when I joined Wise almost 4 years ago. Yep, something like that. It was a tool for data visualization and analysis purposes for our compliance and operational teams. So the same guys who work in the KYC, FinCrime, AML space mostly. The problem that we're trying to solve was a long and tedious process of collecting, analyzing customer profile information, profile data, of course, their financial behavior, and doing that using multiple internal and external sources. You can imagine the amount of information that a fintech, not financial information institution, but fintechs have about their customers, right, and their connections. So it's like massive, it's enormous. And the solution we came up with was a tool that then would give those investigators, those people, the full comprehensive overview of all those case-related parties, their connections, their financial behavior, and by the end of the day, again, would help investigators make much more educated decisions and faster as well. So how we went about like doing or building this product. First of all, and any designer really should do that, set yourself a couple of design goals. After you have, realized that, okay, there is this problem, we need to solve it. Maybe there is a consensus within the team that, yes, that's the thing. We can, go to the boss ladies, boss men, and tell them, yes, let's do it. Give us some money, and boom, 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 boom. Always set yourself a couple of design goals. So for me, it was improving the efficiency and speed of investigations, improving the onboarding experience for new investigators as well, because ideally you would want your every tool to be self-sustainable, right? You don't want to let's be honest, you don't want to provide customer support or anything really. It should be self-sustainable. You have a place where they can go, it's called the documentation, and they can just get any help from there and guidance. Also, maybe one of those bigger goals or major goals was to decrease the number of unnecessary aspects of investigations, which basically means getting rid of all those unnecessary steps in the process. Like look at what can be automated, look at what could be thrown out entirely, or even getting rid of the most of the process, because actually most of the times it's the process that is broken. It's not a tool that you need. Ideally, in internal tooling, you wouldn't build any tools. You just take care of the processes, right? But amazingly, still, lucky to me, I can still do those things. And yeah, the big ultimate goal was to reinvent investigations entirely. What I did as a first thing, so I'm going to just walk you through my design process real quick without going too much into detail with everything, but just to give you an overview of what I did, which helped me to build this amazing tool, which, by the way, I think today has around 2,000 unique monthly users. So it's almost like it's half of Wisers are using it. So it's kind of amazing. So I went and built those relationships first. And in the internally facing software world, it's really important that you not go only to one team or one person or two people. You want to try and tackle as many of those stakeholders as possible, because even though we plan to release this thingy also for only one team at a time, the idea was still to cover the whole domain. And I talked to everyone and tried to map their processes, tried to find, again, that shared pain, which I mentioned before. And why that is important is because it's so much easier to get people together in a room and make them listen to you when you show them that this is actually a problem that everyone has. So it gives you a lot of credibility, and a lot of opportunity for actually pulling this thing off. So once that was done, the next thing for me was to go and talk to even more people. I didn't talk to, I think, before the actual user testing of the MVP, I didn't even talk to the end user at all. I'm going to tell you why. It's too much noise. They will still tell you what they want, not what they need. Instead, what I did was I talked to the team leads, because they usually know how it should be, or they can kind of, they wish how it should be. So I can understand them, and some specialists as well, and they will give me much more valuable information than the end user in the early phases of the discovery, right? So I mapped again what tools they are using today, what are their processes, and then that's the one really awesome thing about doing user research internally is it's your colleague. It's like sitting there, literally, sit next to them and just watch what they do. And you will be the judge of, what's best for them, not them telling you, because, So it gave me a lot of insights into how my end user actually, or what are their main pain points. But just sitting next to them and watching what they do, and maybe listening to them, or every now and then asking some questions. The kind of last phase in my discovery was to again, find a place where I could write it all down, where I could store it. Ideally, you would want to do that in a place which is like accessible to everyone. Again, because this is the beginning of your documentation, right? You go write your vision there. You go write your process there. It's also for you for your next future projects. It's going to be the place where you go every now and then and get guidance, or it's like a living thing anyway. So in our case, it was the internal wiki. Thanks, Atlassian. And yeah, once that was done, the only thing left was to schedule stakeholder reviews and create a roadmap. And please do that as early as possible in the process. Book the whole calendar full, because those people on the other side of the desk are usually very busy. They have a lot of meetings. They are having lunches and stuff. They never, there. So make sure you have those slots booked in the calendar. It's so much easier to, tackle problems and really solve anything in the early stages of product development. And yeah, once I started actually designing the thingy, and it's again like something that you most of the time don't really need to care about the framework, because when the tech stack is there, you know which framework to use, right? But if not, then definitely choose a framework to work in. Don't invent a bicycle. Also choose a design system which is compatible with that framework. There's a small hint in the corner of the screen which one we are using, but it's really up to you what you want to use for building. But I would suggest using a design system, because it just makes things so much smoother. Other logistic like design versioning and stuff, it's the basic things that every designer should anyway do, and everyone in a product development cycle should anyway take care of. And build a prototype helps you to test some stuff already there, instead of waiting for the MVP to be released. So all of that, and something which is kind of, I realized not too early in the process, but after talking to our end users as well, is that, and I think you agree with me, it's like data is useless when you can't access it, when you can't read it, understand it, and when you can't manipulate it, right? Data is useless. So for me, one of the kind of tools which already existed out there and helped me to solve this problem with like complex data and huge amounts of data was storytelling. How? So when you look at this thingy here on the screen, it's something I call a complex component. So it's basically a component which has multiple parameters that you can trigger individually. You can turn them on and off, and it happens like, whenever you place the component in the UI, it just magically changes its appearance, look and feel, right? So there's an icon, there's some sort of indicator, primary text, secondary text, a golden pill with a number inside it, a flag, an icon. So a lot of parameters. And when you take a look at this, it's still the same component, but it has changed its appearance based on the scenario, right? So whenever you put it in the UI, it changes the appearance. And how storytelling helped me create this thingy is, like, can you imagine a more pleasant experience than reading a book, right? So what I try to do is basically look at the data at the same time, imagine how would I read it, and then I formed sentences out of that in that context which I was working in, and then sentences started to form. And based on that, I was able to build a component which finally helped me build this thingy. So it's an actual feature from the final product, and it's built with this single component. So when you take a closer look, it's everywhere, right? In the header area, in the section below it, in the content area as well. It's all the same component, like this thingy. Just, again, based on where you put it in the UI, it changes its appearance. So we have the same icon, though it's bigger, it's red, it has another illustration in it, status indicator, primary text, flag, bunch of icons. One of them is blue, so everything in the UI that is blue is clickable, and so on. So and when you start reading it, just try it for a moment. Like you can really read it like a book. It's like sentence after sentence after sentence. A customer whose name is John Doe did something bad, although his account is verified. He's from Germany, this and that, and then joined the Wise and then created his account 3 seconds later, etc. So it's all there, and this is something that helped me create a thingy, which in the end product looked like this. So it's a high fidelity-ish example of because we can't reveal all the secrets, right? We don't want you to know how we know that you are gonna commit tax fraud in 2 days, 3 p.m. with 37% certainty, right? But yeah, this is how it looked. A lot of kind of modern things happening here. Modular UI. It has 12 layers of information. I should have used a darker gray. Color contrast, boom. But it has tabs, right? So you can just switch between tabs and get more information and more information, but you still are in your context, right? So everything we were able to fit on a full HD screen, and all those, remember those multiple internal and external sources I mentioned before, everything is now here. You just need to scroll a little bit to see some more financial behavior there in the bottom. That's the huge table, right? But all the other things are here. So again, based on the role, based on the context, the UI can change because it's modular, right? It enables to do a really like dynamic thingy. And if you're still missing, some sort of information, you can still pull it in by creating extra layers on top of it. So it's just a neat trick how to get like massive amounts of data in one full HD screen, right? And because we knew what kind of screen size or screen resolution our internal users have, again, the decision was really easy made. Again, just to remind you, storytelling, try it out. It's like whatever you design, actually, it doesn't have to be an internal tool. Of course, ideally it would be, but storytelling will help you a lot with figuring out what you should actually put in the UI. And the reward, I think, if I remember correctly, in our case, it was some major international financial regulators that later came to us. And once they had the chance to see how this thing works and what it actually does and how it performs, then, oh, you guys are godlike. You built something amazing, blah, blah, blah. It's the rewarding part. And when you know that you created something that helps people out in the whole world, or at least internal teams, to do their thing better, like more efficiently, and by the end of the day, maybe they can solve 50 or 100 things more than they were able to do yesterday. Then I think it's an amazing feeling. But it didn't come without challenges. First of all, again, the stakeholder buy-in, because everyone is so goddamn connected emotionally with their things, like the tools that they use, the processes, and it's really hard to get them away from that, to prove to them that there's a better way, right? So, but all those things, like, when you tackle all those things early in your discovery stage, like talk to the people, actually try to understand their processes, because again, it's mostly about the process. It's not, the tool shouldn't be built because you want to build a tool, right? Getting to know the user was a challenge, though. In the end, I think it was, again, relatively easy, because like they just go and watch them. It's cheap. Doing user research internally is really cheap, because you don't need to organize any sort of user testing sessions or whatever, like surveys. Streamlining, and that goes both for your own process, because you want to be as efficient as you can be, and also streamlining in the terms of what happens afterwards. So other teams should be able to build their tools based on your documentation as well. So kind of streamlining the whole process is a key moment there. And documentation. Wise is hiring. If you want to do the documentation, then come and join us. And we also learned something. So actually, what I learned was that, and I hope you believe me when I say it, that efficiency is never about more time. It's about making the most of the time that you have. So it doesn't matter if you have to do 1,000 things by the end of the week or 1,000,000 things by the end of the month. It's how you use the time that you have. Never try to strive for more time, because there's never more time. Like, the tools you build, as I said before as well, you should never build tools just for the sake of building tools. So if you see that you can fix the process, don't build a tool. Building tools is really expensive. And right on the time, awesome. To wrap it up, a little bit of how I see the future of product design and why I think internal tooling is really sexy. It's going to be really sexy. Maybe it's not yet, but it's going to be really sexy. What do you think that this is? It's a piece of nice UI created by AI. So the person who created this probably had to write a sentence or two, and then the artificial intelligence just created this for them. So go Google, it's there. You can, all the product designers will be obsolete in 2 years, maybe in 5 years, at least in a form that they are today, which is awesome. I mean, if that happens today already, what will happen tomorrow, right? AI-generated UI. How awesome is that? So what I think designers will be, like product designers, the traditional product designers in a couple of years, they will be more design strategists. So thinking about the bigger picture, thinking about the thinking on the tactical side of design. And what I mean by that is, again, fixing the processes, understanding the business needs of the customer, and aligning those, like aligning your designs and aligning your design process around those business needs. So designers will be dealing much more with those high-level strategical things, which is like a really amazing world in itself. Also, there's like the designer community is already talking about the rise of system designers and system thinkers, and the importance of design systems in near future, which I also personally believe will be true. I already see it today, how any sort of product design is becoming more and more technical. So because of that slide which I showed before, like boom, and it's just the content is still gibberish, but that will change, because you as a product designer will be taking care of the content as well. And ideally, by the end of the day, what I think is product designers will be the ones who actually create all those components, all those principles and guidelines, but not best practices, never. Do you know what best practice means? It's when everyone is doing equally shitty job. But all those guidelines and things and the framework and the design system that the AI can use to actually build the design for you. So, and if that is not sexy, what is? Thank you. Questions?
Exactly. See, we have one there, and back there as well. Many questions.
Hi, thank you for the talk. Really interesting. I really enjoyed the kind of pros and cons list of the internal versus external tools. Maybe one aspect to consider in the external tools world is the fact that the teams that quite often build them, they are laser focused on them. So you could argue that in some sense, the innovation that might happen there could happen faster than in teams building internal tools. So my question would be, do you have some process or like how do you ensure that the tools you build internally are still kind of worth it and still give you the best return on investment when compared to some external tools?
So how we, like, why I think that it's it's really possible to innovate and create new trends internally and what could make the internal tools in that sense better than the external ones is like when you just need to be bold enough and give your designers or your engineers or the whole team who is taking care of those things enough freedom to actually go crazy and do those things and try those things out. And again, because user testing is practically cheap, like for free internally. You can do a lot of things and get a lot of valuable information from your own colleagues, which I mean they are kind of the same users anyway. Like everyone is using everything, so I can't probably fully answer your question in as for the process part, but I totally believe that when you give the team responsible for internal tooling enough freedom to try things and really try crazy things out, new ways of doing things, then this is definitely something that will, if not give an advantage, but they will be at the same point at the finish line with innovation. If that answered your question, I really hope it did. So.
All right. Any other questions?
Did I make it?
Yep.
Thank you for the talk. It was so relatable. Our back office is a mess, to be honest. So I have a few ideas, but I would love to hear your suggestions on kind of like when to prioritize this back office sexiness and kind of improving it, and how to sell it to the whoever is managing the resources.
The short answer is NLP. I mean, you should always do it in secret in the background while you are selling the whole idea. Because design, I personally also believe that design foremost must work, not look good. But by the end of the day, every product should actually be pleasant to look at as well. So all the sexiness, but not only the visual part of it, the pixie dust, but all those other things, they also happen like automatically while you are, proving your point and doing your research and talking to all those people. But yeah, it definitely becomes a thing once you have gotten to a point where you want to start scaling. That's something that we experienced at Wise was. So, okay, we built this thing for one team, but when we wanted to scale to other teams as well, then we already needed to take care of the aesthetics part as well. So, and that's where the sexiness started, like all those things which I also mentioned here. So, yeah.
I think we have time for one more question, and the microphone is already there.
Yeah, thank you for the talk. So I was wondering, you mentioned multiple kind of downsides or those bad things about internal tooling design. I wanted to hear your own opinion from your experience. What is like the thing that you hate most or dislike the most about
internal tools?
About designing for internal tooling regarding something.
Oh, I hate the technology. Like in general, because it puts you also in a situation where you have actually a lot of limitations at first. And even if those are not technological limitations, there is a lot of opposition because the internally facing software world is so much different from what you experience, on the customer side. Also, building tools in that domain is, it requires totally different approach, a mindset shift, an attitude shift. It requires a different process. So I think the one thing which and I wouldn't say I hate about it, but again, it was one of the biggest challenges is to get other people to listen and to understand what I mean by saying, this and that and that and that. So changing their opinions and, their biases about tooling. Again, making them understand that everything is customer facing. And by the end of the day, if your colleagues are happy, your customers will be happy. And the only way to do that internally is, improve how your employees work on a daily basis with whatever they do, like all the things that it will affect the end customer. That's a fact. So.
All right, my mind is changed a little bit maybe on internal tooling. Let's hope. I have to actually start working on internal tooling on Monday.
Actually, yeah, go out there, experience it. Then you will start believing me. I don't need you to believe me right now. I'm just teasing.
All right, thank you.
you.
Let's give it up for Maido.